The thing under the floor. The first knock came at exactly 3:14 a.m. It wasn't loud, just 3 slow taps beneath my bedroom floor. I opened my eyes, convinced I'd imagined it. Old houses make strange noises. Wood expands. Pipes groan. Then it came again. 3 knocks. A pause. 2 more. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. 3:14. The sound seemed to come from directly beneath my bed. I switched on the light, looked around the room, and found nothing. My dog, Cooper, was staring at the floor instead of sleeping. His ears were flat against his head, and he refused to move. The next morning I almost forgot about it. Almost. Until I noticed muddy footprints leading from the basement stairs into the hallway. They stopped halfway down the hall. No prints led back. I lived alone. At least I thought I did. That night I locked every door, every window, and even placed a chair against the basement door. At exactly 3:14, knock. 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 Pause. Knock. Knock. This time the sound came from the basement. Cooper began growling so deeply I'd never heard anything like it before. I slowly opened the basement door. The light switch didn't work. Only darkness. I pointed my flashlight down the stairs. Boxes. Old shelves. Concrete walls. Nothing else. Then the flashlight flickered. For less than a second. But in that second I saw someone standing in the far corner. Perfectly still. The light returned. The corner was empty. I slammed the basement door shut. The following day I called the previous owner of the house. An old man answered after several rings. The moment I mentioned knocking beneath the floor, he went silent. Finally he whispered, "Don't answer it." "What do you mean?" "If it knocks," his voice shook. "Never knock back." Before I could ask another question, the call disconnected. When I tried calling again, the number no longer existed. That evening curiosity defeated common sense. At 3:14 the knocking started again. 3. Pause 2. Without thinking I knocked back. 3 times. The house became completely silent. Even the refrigerator stopped humming. The air felt heavy. Then a smile spread across Cooper's face. Not a dog's happy grin. A human smile. His lips stretched unnaturally wide. His eyes never blinked. He slowly turned toward me. And in a voice that wasn't his he whispered, "Thank you." Every light in the house exploded. Glass rained onto the floor. Cooper collapsed as if nothing had happened. I ran outside barefoot and stayed in my truck until sunrise. The next morning I returned with 2 police officers. They searched every room. Nothing. One officer laughed when I described the knocking. The other wasn't laughing. He stared at the basement door the entire time. Before leaving, he quietly asked, "Did you knock back?" I nodded. His face turned pale. "You need to leave this house." "Why?" He hesitated. "My father worked missing persons in this county for 30 years. What does that have to do with anything?" He always said the same thing. The officer looked directly into my eyes. The people who answered the knocking were never found. I packed everything that afternoon. As movers loaded the truck, Cooper refused to enter the house. He sat in the driveway shaking. When I carried the last box outside, I noticed something carved into the wooden floor beneath my bed. Words are old deep, as if someone had scratched them with a knife years ago. "It only knocks once." I sold the house 2 months later. I never told the buyers what happened. Sometimes I convinced myself it was grief, stress, hallucinations. Then last week in my new apartment at exactly 3:14 a.m. I heard it again. 3 knocks. A pause. 2 more. This time they came from inside the wall beside my bed. And just before dawn someone knocked back. I didn't sleep after hearing the knock in my new apartment. I sat on the edge of my bed until sunrise, staring at the wall where the sound had come from. Nothing happened. No voices. No footsteps. Just silence. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it had been a nightmare. Then I noticed something strange. The wall beside my bed had a faint outline. A perfect square. As if someone had patched a hole years ago and painted over it. I'd never noticed it before. That afternoon I bought a hammer. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Still I hit the wall once, twice. The drywall cracked. Behind it wasn't insulation. There was another wall. Old wooden planks. Much older than the apartment building itself. Someone had built a second wall behind the first. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. When I answered, all I heard was breathing. Then a familiar whisper. You answered once the call ended. I stepped closer to the wooden boards. Something had been carved into them. Hundreds of tiny marks. Names. Dozens of names. Some fresh. Some almost impossible to read. Every name had a single date beside it. No birthdays. No death dates. Just one day. At the very bottom there was empty space. And beneath it my name. Already carved. No date yet. A cold wave rushed through my body. Someone had written it before I'd ever moved here. I backed away. The lights flickered. 3 knocks echoed from inside the wooden wall. Knock, knock, knock. Pause. Knock, knock. This time I didn't answer. The knocking grew louder, harder, violent enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Then something knocked from the other side of my apartment door. 3 times. Pause. 2 more. My heart stopped. Whatever it wasn't trapped inside the walls anymore. It had found the door. I didn't move. The knocking at my apartment door stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No neighbors. No footsteps. Nothing. Still, I didn't unlock the door. Instead, I grabbed my phone and checked the security camera outside my apartment. The recording showed the hallway exactly as I expected. Empty. Then, at exactly 3:14 a.m., the camera glitched. Static filled the screen for less than a second. When the picture returned, someone was standing outside my door tall, wearing dark clothes. Their face was hidden beneath a hood. They didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't even blink. Then the figure slowly raised one hand and knocked. 3 times. Pause. 2 more. The recording froze again. When it came back, the hallway was empty. I opened the apartment door anyway. No one. But something was lying on the floor. An old brass key. Attached to it was a faded paper tag. Basement. My apartment building wasn't supposed to have a basement. The landlord had told me that on the first day. There isn't one, he'd said. The building sits on a concrete slab. The next morning I confronted him. The moment he saw the key, all the color drained from his face. Where did you get that? It was outside my door. He stared at it for several seconds before whispering, I threw that away 20 years ago. What does it open? He didn't answer. Instead, he unlocked a maintenance door behind the laundry room. Hidden behind old pipes was a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. I've never been back since that night, he admitted. What happened? He swallowed hard. My father disappeared down there. We descended the stairs together. The air grew colder with every step. At the bottom was a long concrete corridor ending at a massive steel door. The brass key fit perfectly. The lock clicked. The landlord grabbed my arm. Don't. But it was too late. The door slowly swung open. Inside was a small room, empty except for a wooden chair facing the wall. On the wall, scratched into the concrete hundreds of times, were the same 5 words. It only knocks once. Then the chair moved. Not much. Just enough to scrape across the floor. Neither of us had touched it. From somewhere behind the wall, 3 slow knocks echoed through the room. Pause. 2 more. The landlord began to cry. I hear it again, he whispered. Before I could ask what he meant, someone knocked back. From inside the room. The knocking from inside the room stopped. The landlord grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. We have to leave. He pulled me toward the door, but something made me look back. The wooden chair had moved again. It was no longer facing the wall. It was facing us. Slowly, very slowly, it rocked once. No one was sitting in it. At least that's what I thought. Then I noticed the floor. There were wet footprints. Bare feet. They began behind the chair and stretched toward us. One after another. As if someone invisible was walking across the room. The footsteps stopped less than a foot in front of me. I couldn't breathe. The air became freezing cold. A whisper filled the room. So you answered. The landlord screamed and ran for the stairs. I followed. Behind us came the sound of footsteps. Not running. Walking slow. Patient. Always the same distance behind us. We slammed the steel door shut and locked it. The footsteps stopped instantly. Neither of us spoke until we reached the parking lot. The landlord lit 3 cigarettes before managing to say a single sentence. My father heard the knocking in 1984. What happened to him? He disappeared. The police never found him. They found his apartment. He looked at me with empty eyes. The bed was still warm, but he was gone. No blood, no signs of a struggle. Only 5 knocks recorded on the answering machine. That night I searched newspaper archives. It wasn't just his father. Over the past 60 years, 37 people had vanished without explanation. Different cities, different houses, different decades. But every case mentioned the same thing. Neighbors reported hearing knocking shortly before the disappearance. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more. Then I found something that made my stomach turn. A photograph from 1961. It showed a family standing in front of an old farmhouse. Behind them, looking through the upstairs window, was the same hooded figure I had seen on my security camera. The article said the entire family disappeared 2 days after the picture was taken. No one had noticed the figure until years later. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. No breathing this time. Only one sentence. You've been chosen. The call ended. At exactly that moment, every light in my apartment went out. The power wasn't out. Only my apartment. In the darkness, I heard something impossible. Not knocking. Breathing. From inside my bedroom. I reached for the flashlight on the kitchen counter. It's been cut through the darkness and landed on the bedroom doorway. Someone was standing there. The hood. The impossible smile. And eyes that reflected the light like an animal's. It slowly raised one finger pointing toward the wall beside my bed. Then it whispered, "It's your turn." The wall exploded with 5 deafening knocks. But this time they didn't come from inside the wall. They came from underneath my bed. I couldn't move. The knocking beneath my bed grew louder. 3 knocks. A pause. 2 more. The hooded figure never took its eyes off me. It simply pointed at the floor. Then it vanished. Not in a flash. Not in smoke. It simply wasn't there anymore. The apartment became silent again. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I slowly knelt beside the bed. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. There was no one underneath, only darkness. Then something reached out. A pale human hand. It grabbed my wrist with impossible strength. I screamed and pulled back. The hand disappeared just as quickly as it had appeared. But it left something in my palm. A small wooden token. The same symbol carved into it appeared on every wall I'd seen. The same symbol that had been scratched beneath my bed in the old house. I drove straight to the abandoned farmhouse from the 1961 newspaper photograph. It had been empty for decades. The roof had collapsed. Windows were broken. Nature had almost swallowed it. Inside, beneath layers of dust, I found a single room with hundreds of names carved into the walls. Every missing person, every date, every victim. At the very center was one sentence. It doesn't take you. It replaces you. Below it hung an old mirror. The glass was black with age. As I stepped closer, my reflection didn't. It remained standing still, watching me. Then it smiled. A slow, impossible smile. Exactly like the hooded figure. I stumbled backward. The reflection never moved its feet. It simply lifted one hand and knocked against the inside of the mirror. 3 times. Pause. 2 more. Cracks spread across the glass. A hand pushed through from the other side. Then another. Someone was climbing out. Someone wearing my face. I ran. I never looked back. The police searched the farmhouse the next day. According to them, there was no mirror. No names. No room. Only an empty shell of a house. That was 6 months ago. I don't sleep anymore. Every night at 3:14 the knocking returns. Always closer. Sometimes from the walls. Sometimes from the floor. Sometimes from inside the closet. But I never answer. Because now I know the truth. The knocking isn't trying to get inside. It's waiting for me to leave. This morning I checked the mirror before leaving for work. My reflection smiled. I didn't. Then it whispered 5 words I will never forget. Thank you, I'll take it now. I don't remember driving to work. I don't remember walking into my office. My co-workers greeted me like nothing was wrong. But they kept giving me strange looks. Finally, one of them laughed nervously and said, "Rough night." I asked why. He pointed toward the bathroom mirror. When I looked, I understood. The reflection was mine. But the smile wasn't. And every few minutes, without realizing it, my hand tapped against the desk. 3 times. A pause. Then 2 more.